This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Perfiles Latinos de Charlotte is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hola, soy Edith Valladares McElroy. Por favor, acompáñanos en nuestra próxima edición de Perfiles Latinos de Charlotte con Coco Mejia, aquí en CPCC Televisión. Gracias. Hola, soy Edith Valladares McElroy. Aquí estamos una vez más con su programa Perfiles Latinos de Charlotte. Tenemos una invitada especial que ha estado con nosotros durante hace muchos años y hace muchos años que estamos tratando de entrevistarla y por fin hemos podido invitarla al programa. Esta entrevista va a ser en inglés, así que para los amigos televidentes que no entiendan bien el inglés, por favor, así averigüen la manera de traducirlo, a través de YouTube se puede hacer. Muchísimas gracias y ahora continuamos con la entrevista. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great.
It has been like about 10 years since the time that we tried to bring you to the show, and it has been one thing after the other, and we haven't been able to connect.
I know.
But we're finally here.
Absolutely.
So I want you to tell our audience, what is it that you do and what is it that you have been doing for so long? Because I remember you working as an interior designer. Mm-hmm. You have been doing photography and you have been doing many other things very interesting. So tell us about yourself, Coco.
Well, let's see. I've been here, I'll start kind of a little bit in the beginning, but I've been here about 20 years from Los Angeles. I'm born in San Francisco and raised in Los Angeles. And I've been in Charlotte probably about 16 and 20 in the South here. So my businesses are two, and yes, they have multi-pieces to them. I have Mejia Interior Design, and I design for the hospitality industry. I basically about 85% of my business is designed for hospitalities, for hotels. And I do the design, I do all the FF&E procurement and purchasing and all the brand standards correspondence for the clients. On the other side, I have my other company, which is called Coco Mejia Entertainment. And in that, I do managing clients such as artists and actors. I also do publicity and media for writers or musicians, and I also do booking for all of those different kinds of talents.
And what is it that those two aspects have in common? Because everything has to do with the world of art. In a way.
Yes.
So how did you start the whole thing? How did you decide to be into in art, interior design, and then to the other side of the art?
Well, first of all, I think one of the big connectors for me is my last name, Mejia, apellido Mejia. My father's from El Salvador and my mother is from Russia. And he came to the United States in the 50s, the late 50s, and he purchased the Academy of Fashion Design, which was a school that you would learn how to do millinery, furs, tailoring, design, and all of those different aspects. My mother was a very young Russian student that came to his school, and from there, eventually they married, and then I became the Mejia. Mm-hmm. So growing up in that family, we've always had that kind of a design and art background. I lost my father, my parents divorced very early, probably after about 5 years of my brother and I all being together as one family. And my mother left, and she didn't go very far, but for my Salvadorian father, it was far enough that he couldn't find us. And she moved to LA. And so I never seen my father after 5 years old. So I was a very much of an introvert, and you'll see that a lot of us artists that are in this creative, dreamlike world, we're introverted, and yet there's points where we're extroverted. And in that introverted world is the creative, the child mind, where everything has no boundaries, there is no limitations, and we're always in this playtime world. And that's where the creative artist in myself lived. As a child, I played the guitar at 9 years old. I was already writing, performing, and sewing, which little did I know that my father, you know, had those particular talents.
And when did you find out about your father in more detail? Because as you're telling me, you didn't grow up with him. So,
Yes.
you know, and you brought a wonderful picture with you today to show us.
Yeah.
So when did you find out that your dad had all those attributes that are part of what you are these days?
Yeah. Well, I went to the Iran. I was working with BBC, and I was a reporter, so I was there, and I was also going to be engaged to a Middle Eastern and Iranian man there, which was part of the royal family. And we were going there to meet his family and also see if I could live there part of the months of the year, and part would be in Paris and the rest would be in the United States. Well, while I was there, my father came to me in a dream. Now, preceding that, I'm in my 20s when I go to Iran. Preceding that, I had always had this feeling that my father was out there somewhere, although my mother used to say he really had passed on. But I would look at men that I would think that kind of looked like my brother and I think, oh my God, that's probably what Papa looked like, you know, in my mind. So when I get to Iran, it was in the Iranian families and the European and the Latin families are very, very close-knit. We were not a close-knit family here in the United States, and there's not a lot of that, especially when you do a comparative, but they were very close. So I think that kind of brought up some of the family things that I had been feeling. But one morning I wake up and I tell my fiancé, my father came to me in a dream. I have to leave. I have to go back to the United States. So I proceeded to tell him the story, and the story was, excuse me, my father said, you need to come and find the family. And he had things like, there's a family there for you, there are things for you, I love you, and I miss you, and it was all of those warm, tender things that we have in our dream state. Well, the next morning when I was revealing this to my friend, my partner, he's still my friend after all these years, but my partner at that time, he said, okay, so when we get back to the United States, I really pry my mother on my father's whereabouts, who his relationships were, and really in depth, because she did not want to talk about it. She was 19 and he was in his 50s when they married. He had been previously married 4 times, and this was her first marriage, and her parents had died when she was 17, 18, and she rang basically kind of in a way I think about a father figure for her. So she eventually gave me piece of information by piece of information, and through the pieces of information I was able to connect to him through his attorneys basically. In San Francisco, and I'll just never forget that first phone call when my father's attorney's son picked up the phone and I told him who I was. He was just like, you mean from Michael Alexander? You were the 5-year-old children that we used to know? And I said, yes. So it was heartbreaking. Up until that time, you know, I was a wandering little soul. I knew I had a family, and I knew it was grander than what I had just what I'd seen in my home life. So fantasy life became really big for me, and creativity and animals. I would collect animals and bring them home. So that was my world. So once the gentleman spoke to his father was just over the moon. He cried and I cried, and he says, well, you know, you have 5 brothers and sisters, and you have an auntie, and you have an uncle in El Salvador and everything. So he opened that world, and he was a very generous man. He had all of his children, and before he passed on, he had divided up all the property. But he left a will, and so in the will it said that he left my brother and I many houses in San Francisco. And he said, because I was not able to find my children and pay the child support, I leave them this. And so he left us that, and that was able to get my career going with, you know, my education and everything. I have a lot of acting and background and things like that, and, you know, study with the best coaches in the world. But after that, we got the will and we opened it up. I started a new relationship with the new family. And what I found out is I had this beautiful, incredible family in the United States that had come over and now was, you know, had children. And then I had my uncle who was just the most incredible man. And I say probably more like me than probably my father. I think of a duality of probably both of them. My father was much of a capitalism and he was very businesslike. And my uncle was a freedom fighter. He was the head of the FMLA party in El Salvador, which was during the Civil War. And he fought for people's political freedom. And he really believed that the people had the right, unlike what we see now in El Salvador and what the FMLA has changed into. But he got to fight for the people. He got to see the transition of the board of FMLA party come in during the Civil War and be able to sit down and be actually a particular party. And then he was also able to reveal to me that even as hard as he worked, he believed for the people and he believed the FMLA party, but he said that once they became into power, they were just like everybody else. So that was my uncle's side. So that's the story on how I met them, was through the attorney. And I believe that once I made that marker and found the family, that it just changed me 100. It changed me 100,000 million %. I started to feel in my body and feel who I am as a person in this world, and look upon what they had done and how many great things they had done for people and for the world and for themselves and for the family. It really, I filled out this body that you see.
And did you live in Central America for a while?
No, I never lived there. I traveled once after the family, we all got together, but I have to tell you this one short piece here. When the family, we all got together, they were very excited to hear from me because I was the little blondie. I was the only blonde one in the family, and I was the last children. We were the last children of my father. And so they all decided to come from El Salvador to the United States, and we all met up in San Francisco, where I'm born, and where we lived as a child. And I wanted to show them because my father used to go around to the schools, and my half-brothers and sisters used to go around showing my brother's pictures to all the teachers or the kids, and they couldn't find us. So they spent their life doing those kind of things, which was really hard on them, because they never felt like worthy or good enough that my father was loving them. Although he brought them all from El Salvador, they were from all different families, 4 different families. So he gave them all a better education. But anyway, they all come over, and we decide to go to the last school that they had started looking for us at. And that's exactly where I live. So it was traumatic, and it really broke me and mended me and put me all back together whole again. We drove down this one street in Petaluma. We had a little ranch out there, and my uncle and my aunt and my half-brothers and sisters say, well, this is the last school right here. And I said, well, you didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
I said, you only see that street way down there that's parallel to here? You just make a left, and my school was right there. I mean, I like to just sit on the swing and go back and forth. And so we drove, you know, after all those years, you know. Father comes to me in a dream, and I'm able to unite the family. We go down that road, we make a left, we go to the school, my brother and I, we sit on the swings that we used to sit on, and we all just hugged and prayed and cried, and brought my father's presence to that moment, to know that, you know, we had now been reunited.
And do you feel that connection you know, because the Latino
do.
families, they're very tight, you know, like they
I
like to keep
do.
in touch with each other. So do you feel it inside of you, and also do you keep in touch with them?
Yes,
after
I
all these
do.
years?
After all these years, well, once we made that relationship, or once I made the relationship and introduced myself, my brother and I, to the family, I try to go every year. And I keep on contact with phone and so on and so forth. And some of my brothers and sisters live here in the United States, and all of my primos and primas, they live in El Salvador. And we're close family for me not ever being in that family, for me entering the family as the fifth marriage of my father, you know, American family. So absolutely, I probably, you know, closer to my family in El Salvador than I would say my half-brothers and sisters are to that family.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about what you brought with you. It's very rare that we get a guest to the show that brings something so dear to them.
Yeah.
And we would like to honor that memento of your
Oh,
father.
thank
So would
you.
you mind just sharing with us what you brought?
Yes, absolutely. I thought it would be really great to show you the copulation of who my father was while he was in this country and while he was alive. And I had the honor of being in El Salvador. I've done a lot of work with El Salvador and helping moving the U.S. trade, you know, the CAFTA, DR-CAFTA trade agreement with El Salvador in the United States, but my political work with El Salvador in the U.S. But this is the side of me that's the artist, and I'm one of the group of artists that are artists, Salvadorian artists living abroad. And there was an exhibition competition / about the migration of the Salvadorians in the United States. And so from my heart, putting all these pictures together, I did a collage of who my father is and how it integrates to who I am in this life, and all of the rest of my family. So the collage includes my father's Academy of Fashion Design, and so I put that in the background, and actually I had all of his materials, all of his book, los libros, and so I rolled that all in the back so you know exactly how many stitches to do per inch if you're doing a collar or an Italian or a cuff or whatever. And then I put he was also responsible for bringing the Masons to Sonsonate, El Salvador, so I put his lodge number in the back on the part of the Reforma on the back, the top left. And in the center, my father also he was also a fashion designer, and his line was for men. It was called Alexander's on Market Street. So that's in the center. That's actually the tag of in your suit. And far bottom right is his immigration papers to the United States. And then fluttered around it on the outer side is my father and my brother and I. My father with all of his students at their sewing machines. My father having play. He was a dapper, and so him in his suit and double-breasted and cane and top hat with his colleagues. He had a lot of Italian and German and French and friends. So I compiled all of that together. Oh yes, and my mother. My mother's at the very bottom left. And it was very special for them to choose me to do this. So I was able to go to El Salvador, and this was shown in the Victor Guzman Museo in El Salvador, in San Salvador. Then it was taken, the exhibition was taken. There's two pieces they have of mine. The second piece is my daughter, who is, she's part Native American Indian, so she's black hair and sky blue eyes. And then her cousin, who is a beautiful brown latte skin with brown eyes. And I photographed them inside this tire of a unit of Las Primas, the cousins. And so those two pieces traveled to San Salvador, and then they went to Washington, D.C., to the OEA, the Organization of American States, in which there was an exhibition for us artists living abroad. And then so that's what that compilation is.
And
a lot of heart, a lot of soul, and I think about all of it A lot, the journey a lot. But I did want to say also in El Salvador, which I did in, I think it was in 2003 when we had the chair on parade here. Remember when we had that World Art? Well, I purchased one of the chairs, and it was Zapata's restaurant that gave me the money. And I did this beautiful chair, and it reminded me of Spain. I did a big crown on it. And then Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, I used all their primary colors and painted it. But it had a huge crown on the top of it. It had all these flowers and vines wrapped around it. And on it, I titled all of the countries in South and Central America, Mother Spain, and then my cities in which our family have. And it took me 8 years to finally get it shipped to El Salvador, in which it sits in the museum in El Salvador, which connects El Salvador to the United States, because we are the closest ally for the U.S.
That is fascinating. And it took so many years. It was a labor of love, I guess, trying to make it go there. Now, tell us about Charlotte. What is it that you have done in Charlotte? Because I know that you have worked with several people in here. Something that makes you really proud, something that makes you think, okay, this is what I wanted to be, this is what I wanted to do.
Something that makes me really proud. Well, Charlotte has been really good for me in comparison from Los Angeles to Charlotte. Is a smaller little city, has a lot of warmth. The southern people are a lot warmer than LA, because we're always so much in a car. We never really get out and communicate, and if it is, it's probably might be some good words, but maybe some really hard because frustrated, just like New York. So Charlotte, its city, has been really good and really healthy for my heart, for my being, for everything around. I've got some really beautiful friends here. It's easy to navigate. They have everything that I need as far as being an artist. You've got a little bit of the film, you have the music, and you have all the other, exhibitions and museums and things to go for outings. But Charlotte has just been really good, really easy for me. I guess that's the best that I can thing that I can say about Charlotte, or what is here, is that it's just been so peaceful for me to kind of take this spirit and plop it here. And kind of, my daughter grew up basically here, now she's back in Los Angeles working. But it gave her a lot of great strengths. It gave her some peace. It gave her some honor. It gave her some quietness that in California we necessarily would have to go to a yoga or a retreat to get, but it just surrounds this particular area because just of the ease, I guess, of getting around and the quality and the culture that they have here.
I remember that you were working with one of the big hotels in Charlotte a long time ago, and you did a project for them. Do you remember what that project was? It was a long time ago. Was it the West Inn or?
No, it's the Hilton, and actually I just redesigned it. So back into Mejia Interior Design was my hotel work, and so I've just gone into, it is the Hilton on University Boulevard, and I just re-renovated it. But as far as my design work for hotels, I just travel around the U.S., but I have 23 restaurants here in just Charlotte that I've done, plus lots of hotels, and then I just travel outside as well.
Yeah, and I remember when we were at the breakfast to commemorate Cesar Chavez's birthday, I remember that you brought an artist to sing for us. So tell us about that piece also, that part of your work.
Yeah. Well, that goes with the Coco Mejia Entertainment. That's where the management goes in and kind of giving young talent springs to fly. Growing up in Los Angeles, I had an enormous opportunity to study with some of the best people in the world as far as acting goes and in music goes as well, because I studied music. And I've always had kind of a heart for, giving back and giving someone else an opportunity for their dream, or passing, as I say, the candle on to somebody. And I found this incredible young fellow that's 22 years old. His name is Daniel A. Solis. He's a Mexican, and of all different things of what he likes to sing, he does all of the American jazz standards like Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and then Michael Bublé, all of those standards. So that's the gentleman that I brought, but he is He's a beautiful young talent, and we work very, very hard.
And what is your future like, Coco? Tell me, what is it that you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years? This is not an interview for a job, but this is something that I think, yeah, what is it that you see yourself doing in the future?
What I see myself doing is going back into writing. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a sitcom right now, and I'm also writing and penning a book. So that will talk about immigration and loss of children and all of crossing these borders and how it affects one, because definitely I was a bit put into that mix there. Mm-hmm. So I'm writing a book, and then also a sitcom, which will be fun. It'll be about Salvador. It'll be comedy. It'll be very, very funny. So that's what I see myself doing, in addition to doing a little bit more acting, taking that back on, and then continuing my other 2 jobs.
Yes, and we're so proud for everything that you do, and so happy that you were able to join us. Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
We have to go. I think we only have like 2
1
seconds.
second?
Yes, thank you so much, and we'll
You're
meet again.
welcome,
Thank
Edith.
you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Y a ustedes, amigos televidentes, por favor, sintonícenos una vez más en su programa Perfiles Latinos de Charlotte, aquí en CPCC Televisión. Gracias.
A production of PBS Charlotte.